My car was gone before my boss even called. I had driven it to work a month after signing papers, and by lunchtime, nothing. Just an empty space in the parking lot and the cold feeling that someone had taken something that wasn't theirs to take. That sentence was the beginning of a week that taught me how thin the line is between being powerless and finding the exact leverage you need. If you've ever felt wronged and wanted real justice, hit subscribe and like this video, because this is one of those stories where the tables don't just turn, they flip with surgical precision. Comment below if you think revenge can ever be fair. Now, let me tell you what happened. The setup, she walked into a dealership, picked a car, and left with keys in her hand. Simple, hopeful, dangerous. Tiah McCreary chose a 2022 Kia K5, signed the necessary forms, and left the lot with a sense of relief. The kind that comes when you finally solved a problem that's been gnawing at you. At the dealership, the finance manager, we'll call him Justin, walked her through electronic signatures, and the dealer arranged a loan with a third-party lender, Global Lending Services. She was given preliminary approval, the dealer handed over the keys, and she drove off. It felt like the finish line. Then the rug got pulled. Imagine sitting at your desk, the hum of fluorescent lights and a screen full of spreadsheets, when a pit opens in your stomach because the call you've been waiting for never comes. That was Tiah's gut clench when she learned the lender had reversed course. There wasn't enough information to finalize the loan. The dealership, which had already let her drive the car, coordinated a repossession, and they did it while she was at work. No warning. No, hey, can we talk? Just the sickening, metallic click of control changing hands. You should feel the anger here in your chest, the tensing of muscles, the hot flush across the face, the inner dialogue that quickens. How could they? Why me? Betrayal from an institution you trusted has a way of turning polite people into investigative bulldogs. Tiah had that shock, then something else, a procedural curiosity. She started to comb through the facts, not just to rant, but to find a path back. During her research, she uncovered something that read like the first paragraph of a revenge romance novel. The dealership's trade name, Taylor Kia of Lima, had been canceled by the Secretary of State because no one renewed it. It was a clerical lapse, an administrative oversight that meant the name was technically available. Where most people see red tape, Tiah saw an opportunity. Now picture the scene, late night searches, her fingers tasting the coffee, the screen illuminating a step-by-step checklist. She thought, if you leave a door unlocked, someone will walk in. She walked into the online portal and registered the trade name in her own name. Not a petty tweet, not a viral post. She took formal, legal ownership of the name the dealership had used since 2012. Then she did something crisp and clinical. She sent a cease-and-desist letter telling Taylor Automotive Group to stop using the name without her permission. That's when the real chess match began. Let's pause to feel how tight the tension becomes. The dealership had repossessed her car, an act meant to assert power. Tiah countered by filing paperwork, an act that also asserts power, but in the language that matters most to companies' law, registration, and the ability to conduct business under a name. It's not theatrical, it's precise. You could sense the dealer's internal panic, brand confusion, local customers calling, signage with a name that now belonged to someone else. It's the sort of bureaucratic chokehold that, when pulled, makes even big operations flinch. What did the dealer do? They tried to push the fight into arbitration. Remember those fine print agreements you sign? The dealership said Tiah had agreed to binding arbitration for disputes tied to the purchase. So the case should be kicked out of courtrooms and decided behind closed doors. Initially, a lower court agreed and sent the matter to arbitration. It felt like a slam dunk for the dealership, the power of a signed clause versus the power of a wronged customer. But Tiah pushed back. She appealed. And that appeal is where the story takes its clever legal turn. The appellate court looked at the specific claim. Did the dispute over the dealership's use of a trade name really arise out of the sale of her car? The judge writing the opinion, Judge John Wilimowski, asked a simple question: are naming rights the same thing as auto financing? The answer was a decisive no. The court ruled that while her purchase contract might send financing disputes to arbitration, The issue of ownership of the trade name was separate and could be heard in the public court system. In short, the dealership couldn't hide behind fine print to avoid the name dispute. The appeals court reversed the earlier dismissal and sent that claim back to the lower court. That was a legal checkmate, at least for one piece of the fight. I want you to imagine the emotional payoff for a moment. Revenge isn't always a scream. Sometimes it's the quiet, measured satisfaction of seeing a system work in your favor. Tiah didn't burn down a building. She didn't go for melodrama. She looked for the smallest legal hinge, the one the dealership left unlatched, and turned it. When she sent that cease-and-desist, it wasn't just paper. It was the sound of a person reclaiming agency in a world that often hands the advantage to those with teams and legal departments. The dealer suddenly had to litigate to keep using their own local name. Ironic, because it was their mistake that got them there. There's a second layer here from people who know the place. A former mechanic from the dealership said it was Sue happy, and that repossessions were part of the job description there. Installing ignition interrupters and GPS trackers to take cars back when loans fell through. That paints a picture of an operation built on hard lines and quick repossessions, not customer care. The public commentary added a dash of karmic irony. The house that uses repossession as a tool lost its right to use its own name because it forgot to file a form. That commentary isn't just gossip, it's texture that tells you why the community reaction skews towards satisfaction for Tiah. What happens next? The appellate ruling sent the naming rights claim back to common pleas court, meaning the fight would be public and messy and could unfold in front of a judge and the community. The repossessed car remained a tangible loss for Tiah, and much of her other legal claims had to be resolved, potentially through arbitration, but the naming rights win kept a strategic advantage in her pocket. It's not an all or nothing victory, it's a wedge, and wedges can split the largest doors. So what's the moral? Justice sometimes looks less like cinematic vengeance and more like clever leverage. When systems wrong you, your options are often limited, but limited doesn't mean non-existent. Tiah's story is a lesson in law literacy and creative problem solving. Where there's a technicality, there can be accountability. It's also a reminder corporate power can be undermined by tiny administrative slips and by people willing to pursue the remedy without theatrics.